don't care if it hurts. I wanna have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul. I want you to notice when I'm not around. You're so very special. I wish I was special, but I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. Oh, oh, she's running out again. She's running out. She run, run, run,
Taken by Iguodala. Iguodala the curling back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James.
Whatever makes you happy, whatever you want. You're so very special. I wish I was special, but I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't belong here.
Hello, watcher of this. So, nowadays, the team most people think of as the best basketball team of all time, the GOAT basketball team, is the 2017 Warriors. The first year, the Warriors had Kevin Durant. Some still ride for the 96 Bulls. For some, it's another team. But for most people, the 17 Warriors are the best. But you know, I've never bought it. It never passed the smell test for me, okay? One of my biggest basketball hot takes has always been that the 16 Warriors were in fact better than the 17 Warriors, and here's why. Steph Curry was pretty good at basketball in the 2015-16 season. He was so good that he became the only player to ever be a unanimous MVP. Every single voter thought he was the best. LeBron never did it, Jordan never did it, but Steph did. 2016 Steph might be the best human at playing basketball that there's ever been. Even with the offensive explosion in recent years, Steph's 2016 season still holds the highest offensive box plus minus ever, surpassing the next closest by nearly a full percentage point. He averaged percentages of 50, 45, 91 on huge volume. He led the league in scoring, he led the league in steals, he led the league in free throw percentage, and all this from a 6'2" guy who can't dunk. Some might argue that Steph was basically the same player in 2017 that he was in 2016. How different could he be just 1 year later? Well, let's compare. In 17, he took 1.2 fewer threes, 0.7 fewer twos, and 0.5 fewer free throws. He played 0.8 fewer minutes, so Steph took slightly fewer shots, slightly fewer free throws, and played slightly fewer minutes. Okay, but he was more efficient, right? Since he had KD as a co-star, he probably got easier shots, making him more efficient. That's usually the case when a star joins other stars. For example, when LeBron joined the Heat, his 2 and 3-point shooting reached the most efficient levels of his career because he was playing with other stars who could share the scoring load. But when Kevin Durant joined the Warriors, Steph's efficiency dropped. His 3-point percentage went down by 4.3%, his 2-point percentage dropped by 2.9%, and his free throw percentage decreased by 1%. So why is this? My best guess is that Steph just played better in 2016 by quite a bit. Maybe it was luck, maybe it was something else. But Steph was better in 2016 and may have had the greatest season an individual player has ever had. Draymond could score in 2016. In comparison to 2017, he shot 4.3% better from 2 and a whopping 8% better from 3. Draymond could shoot threes in the 2015-16 season. It was the only season where he shot threes efficiently in his entire career. He shot 39% from 3 in 2016, and the next highest season was 34% in 2015. It's just one game, but in Game 7 of the 2016 Finals, the most important game of his career, Draymond made 6 threes. Draymond also drew 1.3 more free throw attempts in 16 versus 17. Draymond had an effective field goal percentage of 55.1% in 16 and 48.1% in 17. Draymond being a pretty effective inside and outside scorer on a mid-sized diet of shots, taking the third most shots on the 16 Warriors, just barely edging out Harrison Barnes by 0.5 shots, gave the 16 Warriors an extra level of scariness on offense that 17 Draymond just didn't, with one of the least efficient seasons of his career. Around 40% of NBA MVPs have been centers, making them 20% more common than the next most frequent position. Looking at the 17 Warriors, their center rotation included Zaza Pachulia, JaVale McGee, Damian Jones, a very young Kevon Looney, and a very old Anderson Varejao. So if we're being honest, this is a weak center rotation for any team, let alone the supposed greatest team of all time. It almost seems like this weakness at the center position would be pretty easy for other teams to exploit. Let's see who the top centers were in the 2016-17 season. First team, Anthony Davis, who had one of his best seasons on yet another Pelicans team that couldn't make the playoffs. Second team, Rudy Gobert, a great defensive center whose only move on offense was dunking. The 17 Warriors would later sweep the Jazz in the second round. Third team, DeAndre Jordan, another center who was great at defense, but whose only move on offense was dunking. The Clippers would lose in the first round. So what does this tell us? It tells us that the center position was extremely weak this year. Centers hadn't had a comeback yet, like in the 2020s with Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, if he counts, and young rising stars like Wemby, Sengun, Chet Holmgren. The center position was terrible in the mid-2010s. It was the era when Andre Drummond made an All-NBA team and 2 All-Star teams. This was the era when DeAndre Jordan made first team. This was arguably the worst era for centers in NBA history. So isn't it a bit convenient that the best team of all time was able to not have even a halfway decent player at the historically most important position in the game and get away with it? The 17 Warriors barely needed to play against any centers who could actually exploit this gaping flaw in their roster. Anthony Davis was the only center who was an elite scorer this season, and the Warriors didn't have to worry about him because he played on the Pelicans. So there's this episode of Teen Titans called Winner Take All, where Robin, Cyborg, and Beast Boy are teleported to a strange coliseum where they fight in a tournament against the best heroes from across the world. If we did a similar thing and transported the 17 Warriors to a neutral court to compete in a tournament against all the best teams in basketball history, then they'd have to play against great offensive centers like Shaquille O'Neal, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan, Moses Malone, Nikola Jokic, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, and so on. Do you really think that Zaza Pachulia is stopping them? But what about Draymond Green, you say? Draymond won Defensive Player of the Year in 2017. He would sometimes guard centers too. What about that? Yeah, sure, Draymond could guard centers sometimes in a league where centers barely existed anymore. Again, this was a time when Andre Drummond and DeAndre Jordan were two of the best centers in the league. This was a season where Hassan Whiteside was one of the best centers and even led the league in rebounds. Sure, Draymond had success guarding the mediocre centers of the mid-2010s, but he wouldn't be able to guard the top centers all time. Okay, so what's my point? One of the main differences between the 2016 Warriors and the 2017 Warriors was that the 16 Warriors had a reliable post defender and the 17 Warriors didn't. The 16 Warriors had Andrew Michael Bogut. And now, Andrew Bogut is a player that doesn't get talked about a whole lot nowadays, or even back when he was a player either. His stats don't jump off the page, and yet he was enough of an elite defensive player to make an all-defensive team in 2016. He wasn't a part of the 16 Warriors death lineup, but he started and he was a big 7-footer who could give them some legit tough guy defensive intensity when needed. That's more than can be said for the 17 Warriors and Zaza Pachulia. Okay, so the big problem with the 16 Warriors is that they didn't win the championship. After beating the Thunder's Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook in a close 7-game series where they came back from 3-1, they fell to LeBron James and the Cavaliers after being up 3-1. Here's my argument for why this isn't a deciding factor and why the 16 Warriors are still better than the 17 Warriors. They were 1 game away from winning the championship in 2016. They had just come from the winningest regular season of all time and had significant injuries. Steph suffered a sprained knee in the first round against Houston. He would miss almost 2 weeks and would return off the bench in the second round to beat Portland with 40 points and a record 17 in overtime. Despite the historic run, some would argue that Steph wasn't 100% after the injury. Even Steve Kerr said Steph was injured for most of the playoffs. Also, Draymond got suspended for Game 5. And, most importantly, Andrew Bogut was injured with a bone bruise at the beginning of the third quarter in Game 5, and wouldn't return for the rest of the series. Before Bogut's injury, the Cavaliers scored 95.8 points per game, and after, they scored 106.7 points per game. Before Bogut's injury, LeBron averaged 24.8 points per game, and Kyrie averaged 25 points per game. And after, LeBron averaged 36.6 points per game, and Kyrie averaged 30.3. So, that's all I've got. Did I convince you? Did I not? What do you think? Is 2016 better than 2017? Does Kevin Durant make all the difference? Does it not matter if the 2017 Warriors had no good center? What about that? Is 2017 Steph about as good as 2016 Steph? What do you think? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave your favorite song right now in the comments, and I might listen to it. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.